From the home of the Widener Pride, this is WidenerPride.com as we continue our series of preseason interviews for the 2012 fall season. I'm joined by Widener football coach Isaac Collins. Coach, thank you for joining us. Coach, you're coming off a 9-2 season, third ECAC bowl win in school history. At this time last year, you had 10 starters returning. This year, it's 17. How much of an advantage going into this year?
I think it's huge. I think you can see right off the bat in terms of just preseason camp alone, just the fact that we've been able to install more both on offense and defense and special teams. We certainly couldn't do that our first 2 years. We're kind of limited in what we could put in, but we've been able to expand the playbook. The guys have picked it up, and I think where you really see it as an advantage is that the younger players are understanding it better because they have veteran players teaching them.
You look at Chris Halp, who was the only junior, who was the finalist for the Gallardi Award last year, the D3 Heisman, all-conference, preseason All-American. What separates him from everyone else?
Well, I think the fact that he's a humble, student athlete. I mean, he's very humble. He wants to get better. I think sometimes you get a quarterback that has a little bit of success, and it's hard to get them to focus on the big picture. But he understands every day he goes to practice, there's things that he can improve on. We talked a lot about the things he did a year ago and how we can kind of improve on that. And I think the fact that he's worked really, really hard this offseason, worked hard in training camp to get himself to a level to be an elite quarterback. I mean, I think he knows that from year to year it can change in a heartbeat, and I think that's one of the things that kind of separates him. He's grabbing the young receivers and making sure they're lined up, making sure they're running the right routes, and really kind of taking on a big leadership role for us. So that I couldn't be more happier with.
You look at Anthony Davis, who was all-conference last year. He's a preseason All-American returner and wide receiver. What does he mean to the team?
Well, it means a lot. I mean, he's one of our home run hitters, both in special teams as well as on offense. He's really coming along in his second year. That has us excited because he was just a freshman last year, and while he did a lot of magical things, it's kind of neat to watch him now finally starting to understand, how to run routes and how to practice. So those are all things that are key in year two, in order to prevent from having a step back, and I think he's doing a really, really good job in training camp, and I'm really excited to watch him on Saturdays this fall because I really think he's going to be a pain in the neck for a lot of the MAC defenses.
The offense led the nation in scoring last year. What is it about the offense? What makes the offense tick?
I think the biggest thing is we're no huddle. We're multiple personnel. We're fast-paced. When we look back at the film, we've kind of evaluated that we can go even faster. I think when you're going at a high pace, certainly being a defensive coach, it's very difficult. It limits the calls you can make. So it's really kind of forced teams that we've played to kind of really be one-dimensional. And I think that that's allowed us to get the ball to our playmakers. And when they're not throwing a bunch of different things at you, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of move the football. So this year we're hoping to be a little bit faster and a little bit better in the red zone.
And speaking of the defense, you return an all-conference player in Chad Gravenese. Huge asset to the defensive line. Just talk about him, what he means to the team.
Oh, it means a lot. I mean, when he got injured toward the end of the season last year and broke his hand, it kind of limited him. At that point, I think he was 7th or 8th in the nation in terms of sacks. Just the things he brings to the table in terms of it's great as a defense that you don't always have to blitz when you have a guy that's going to be difficult to block one-on-one. So I think the pass rush aspect that he brings, his motor, I mean, he showed some great things throughout camp as well as in our early scrimmages that he can be a force in the run game. And then he's been a great leader. Obviously being named captain, his peers feel the same way I feel. So it's kind of a neat deal that way. And he brings a lot to the table that other teams have to account for. So it certainly helps us when we're game planning.
And finally, the linebackers. You return the same starting core from last year. Joe Ochehowski in the middle, Jamal Dorsey and Dylan Didmer on the outside. How important is that stability?
Well, I think just having chemistry in your linebacking core is huge. I think it makes a big difference. Especially in our system, we put a lot on their shoulders. With the blitzes that we try to run, with the different fronts we play. So they've got to be tied in both in the run fit as well as what we're doing pass coverage-wise, and having guys that are experienced so that the younger kids can watch them and see how it's supposed to be done really helps us in terms of being able to develop depth this upcoming year. And then I'm just excited to see these guys, go after it in the MAC. I mean, I think they're really excited about year 3 and having a better understanding of what we're doing defensively, which hopefully is going to lead to them playing pretty fast and making a lot of plays for us on Saturday.
Widener opens the season on September 1st when it hosts Western Connecticut as part of the MAC NJAC Challenge. We thank head coach Isaac Collins for joining us, and we thank you for your support of Widener University Athletics.